Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Hello to all lovers of lemon scenes. I invite you all to my boosty so you can watch your favorite Naruto What If stories in complete comfort. A subscription to Naruto Lemon, the first video with a full lemon, is already on my boosty channel. Dare! They say that if a person loses one of his senses, then his other sense improves. Be it hearing, smell, sight, or touch. People consider such a person incapable of living a full life, so many begin, so to speak, to babysit him. Of course, those who did not value such a person at all and considered it fun to humiliate him did not disappear. After all, for them it is an outcast. Not like everyone else. Previously, such people were called God's people. Now it's disabled people. But no one thought that they didn't need pity, just support, faith, and understanding. Sometimes these inferior people would so much like to scream, slam their fist on the doorframe and loudly declare that they are capable of doing everything themselves. Some will perceive this protest of theirs as fleeting anger and will continue to treat it the same way. And he withdraws into himself, again and again. Many despair, giving up on all hands, but the strongest does not stop moving towards his goal. He tries to prove to the whole world that he is not a burden. Not an outcast. It was pouring rain. Its drops knocked on the windows, the wind howled, seeping through small cracks. The weather seemed to be sad along with the red-haired little girl. She sat on the windowsill of her own window, trying not to pay attention to the cold air in the house. It was a small apartment in an old dorm where a girl named Uzumaki Naruto lived, completely alone. She was an orphan, and the girl was completely blind. She had no friends, she did not communicate with anyone, except with some members of the Umbu and the Hokage himself, who looked after her. The people did not like her because of the demon fox sealed in her, which 5 years ago destroyed Konoha and ruined many people, including 2 special ones who gave life to the village and Naruto's own daughter. But they had no idea what kind of life they had given their child. After a couple of minutes, the rain began to subside, after which a small ray of sun broke through the thick and dark clouds and hit the girl's face. Feeling the warmth on her own cheek, the girl jumped up sharply and ran to the exit door. The bright sun suddenly appeared in the sky, dispelling melancholy, and with its warm rays warmed the chilled and wet earth and the frozen souls of people. The girl's heart beat joyfully inside. Clumsily and a little unsure, the girl ran down the stairs. She ran completely barefoot in a bright green dress. On the penultimate step she stumbled and fell, breaking her knee. A man in an Umbu uniform immediately appeared near her and, without saying a word, decided to lift her up. But Naruto hit his hand with her palm and shouted, "I myself," after which she got to her feet and unsurely took the first step, after which her smile appeared again, and she rushed along the path she had learned so long ago. A beautiful, small green meadow, surrounded by only trees and bushes. This was just her place, where she could feel like a normal child like everyone else, where there were no those strange looks. The feeling when they look at you with some malice, they simply burn you with their gazes. No one has any idea that she feels all these glances, she just sees them differently, not like everyone else. The grass was still wet from the recent rain. Naruto squatted down and began running her small hands along the wet grass. For a second they froze in one position and slowly began to clench into fists. "Old man," the red-haired girl shouted joyfully. And she ran to an elderly man who was wearing a white robe. His name was Hiruzen Sarutobi. He knows where to look for her. This is her favorite place. Unfortunately, they see each other very rarely. After all, the position of Hokage is obligatory. He squatted down to make it easier for her to hug him. How did you understand that it was me, Naruto? Asked the man, moving away from the girl. I don't know, I just felt, she answered, thoughtfully. Lately I have become more aware of the people around me. Interesting. If this continues, then I think you can be sent to the academy, if you want, of course. Can you become a doctor or go to the academy? Are you kidding? Is it possible? Naruto asked, not believing her ears, but everyone says that I don't belong there. I think you can handle it. But it's still early. To begin with, I'll show you one technique that will be useful to you, the Hokage said and sat down on the grass. Meditation. The girl sat down next to the old man and listened to him carefully, and then performed all the actions that he spoke. It was getting dark outside. It was already late evening. Naruto sat at the table with the Hokage. They drank tea and chatted about something funny, but at some point the girl fell silent and asked the old man in a serious voice. Why doesn't everyone like me so much? Called a demon? I didn't do anything to them. You see, people often do this. Often? But why? They have a lot of anger and hatred. Hatred towards me? To everyone, Naruto. You can't get rid of it. Okay, it's late, I have to go. Good luck, Naruto. The Hokage said goodbye to her and disappeared. Why not get rid of it? Little Uzumaki fell asleep with this question. A year later, October 10th. The morning light gradually flares up in the window. Residents always greeted this day with dampness, chilliness, and a chilly wind. But this morning is quiet. Only the leaves tremble on the tree outside the window. In an old hostel on the outskirts of the village, on the second floor, a window suddenly opened, and a red top of a head looked out. It was Naruto. A light breeze played with her long red locks, which shimmered beautifully in the recently risen sun. The girl's face was so peaceful. Long and fluffy eyelashes trembled, and her small nose rose funny when she filled her lungs with fresh air. Moments later, the girl frowned, which looked very, very cute, after which she opened her big, beautiful, seeing-nothing eyes. And, it seems, anyone who saw them would drown in them. Pale blue color shimmering with silver. Not everyone who knows can say with certainty that they are blind when they see them. They were mesmerizing with their beauty. They say that the eyes are the mirror of the soul. Mirror? But this man, whose words are mentioned, was right. Looking into your eyes, you will see everything that is hidden far away, in the very depths, the secret place of your soul, where no one can reach. Happy birthday, Naruto, said the young man in Umbu uniform. Thank you, Ninja-san, Naruto said, smiling widely. The girl never addressed them differently. Ninja-san. What could be simpler? The weather is great outside today. Nature itself smiles at you. Yes, but this is strange. Will today really be different? Not as always, said the red-haired girl, remembering all the incidents that happened on this day. Every 10th of October was hard for little Naruto. After all, many people died that day. Even though 6 years have passed, everyone still remembers this date. How can you forget when the bearer of all memories is nearby? Naruto never understood what she had to do with it. Walking down the street that day, the girl did not see what was happening, but she felt this accumulated hatred that came from the people nearby. On one of these days, Naruto learned what physical pain felt like when inflicted by someone else. But besides her, there was also a spiritual one. Monster. Demon. Die. Why are they doing this? After all, I didn't do anything, the little one thought, but who will explain to her? A little girl who dreams of one thing, to grow up in a loving family, to have friends, and just to be an ordinary child, where there is no contempt, hatred, and eternal pity. Get ready, today we will visit the Hokage. Hokage? But it's still so early. Naruto was surprised. Now is the time for a gift. A gift? Again. These glances again, the girl thought, walking hand in hand with the young member of the Umbu. They headed to the Hokage's residence, passing through many streets. Having reached the office, they stopped, after which Naruto said, "He's not alone, let's wait." "No, we won't bother them." The Umbu opened the door, led the girl in, then disappeared. Naruto. Sarutobi stood up from the table and walked towards the girl. "Old man. You haven't come to me for so long." The red-haired girl was happy. "I was busy, but that doesn't mean I forgot about you." "Happy birthday, Naruto." "I think you want to get your gift quickly." She nodded her head. "Well. From today you are entering the academy," the Hokage continued calmly. "Eh? To the academy? Are you kidding, old man?" "No, but we can wait a little, since you are only 6. Hooray! Hooray! I will become a ninja." "Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the best gift." Naruto jumped with happiness. Are you sure you can handle it?" "Although I don't doubt you. It's not for nothing that I and everyone who looked after you were involved in your preparation. And now you will be taken to lesson 1. Behave yourself, Naruto." "Of course, old man. What are you talking about? I promise to be the best. You need an assistant." On this note, Naruto and his escort left the office towards the Ninja Academy. "Are you sure you're not making a mistake, Hiruzen?" Someone who was in the office with the Hokage spoke up. "The council doesn't like this idea. In addition, the Jinchuriki is also blind." "Yes. I'm sure. She has abilities." "And what are they?" "Well, for starters, she knew that besides me there was someone else in the office." "Where did you get the idea?" he continued. "Danzo, I've been looking after her for many years and I see how she develops the Kagura Shingon, spiritual eye of God's joy, with the help of which she can search, study and pursue a person along his chakra in radius of several kilometers, opening your spiritual eye. But for this she does not need to make seals. This happens to her unknowingly. Ninjutsu that the Uzumaki owned? And yet, soon it may be dangerous for the population, for all of us. What if the fox breaks out? I think she will become a good shinobi of the hidden village of Leaf," and this ended the conversation between the founder of the Root and the Hokage. Meanwhile at the academy. "We came. Naruto, are you ready? I won't be able to keep an eye on you forever." "It's not necessary, Ninja-san. Everything will be at the highest level," said little Uzumaki, smiling with all her teeth, and stretched out her hand in front of her, showing her thumb. "I hope you understand which one. Well, that's it, this is your office. Good luck." "Thank you," she shouted after the one who was leaving. "So don't worry, Naruto. Everything will be fine." "Hey, hello. Are you talking to yourself?" asked a plump boy who approached. He looked about 7 years old. No, I just... Oh, I forgot. Hello. I'm just here," Naruto said with excitement. "New girl. I understand that I haven't seen you before. Okay, let's go, Iruka-sensei is already in class." Entering the classroom, Naruto took a couple of steps and stopped. It was still not so easy for her to navigate away from home. There was silence in the class, which also put pressure on Naruto. "Introduce yourself," the teacher said and walked towards her. He had brown hair tied in a ponytail, a regular Chunin uniform, and a prominent scar on his nose. "Uzumaki Naruto," after which everyone around began to whisper. Of course, who hasn't heard of Uzumaki Naruto, the demon girl? Uzumaki Naruto. I am Yumano Iruka, your teacher. Well, welcome, Naruto. 2 years later. Every day starts in the morning. For one person it is so desirable, for another it is the most hated, for another it may end before it begins. Everyone has their own. They say that the way we start the morning, we will get such a day. It's probably familiar to many. If the day didn't go well in the morning, then it went like a car off-road. Here you shouldn't be upset about an unsuccessful day, but just remember that every new morning is the time to start life anew. Every new day is a chance not to repeat the mistakes of the past. And the opportunity to change the future. I wonder how long I have left before the academy. Naruto, who had just woken up, muttered. About 3 minutes before the first lesson, the Hokage, who appeared next to him, said in a calm voice. And the old man is you. What? I do not have time. Screaming. The little Uzumaki flew up from the bed and rushed to wash herself. The road to the wash basin was not easy. On the way, she encountered half-eaten boiled noodles in a box, which ended up being put on her right leg, which led to a quick fall on a damaged carton of milk. The morning guest quietly laughed at what he saw, but then took on a serious face, as if nothing had happened. Naruto, I'm worried about your visit to the academy. I began to doubt your intention to become my assistant in the future. You began to often skip classes or be late for the first few lessons, the Hokage answered in the same calm voice. But I didn't do it on purpose, old man. After school, I devote all my time to studying with Ninja-san. He says you need to choose your melee style. This is still difficult for me, but I already know the theory. And in general, this academy is not what I thought it would be, it's boring. Sitting on the floor and puffing displeasedly, she made excuses covered in sour milk and with noodles on Naruto's head. What about your words on the first day of admission that you will make friends no matter what? You see, no one seems to notice me, and if they show their attention to me, it's only with their name-calling and stupid jokes. Nobody wants to be friends with me, old man, the red-haired girl whispered with her head down. And you decided to give up? The man asked in surprise, to which he never received an answer. Naruto, you shouldn't despair. Whatever happens, no matter how hard it is, remember, you need to take a step and another step. If necessary, take another step. These steps will take you where your heart wants to go. The main thing is don't stop, take steps, even when you don't see where to go anyway. Only you choose where to stop, so move until you end up where you want to stay. We may not succeed in many things in life, but it is always worth trying. Where does my heart desire? You're right, old man, then I'll try until I succeed. Little Uzumaki answered after thinking a little, smiling with all her teeth. Well, if that's the case, then it's time to go to the academy. I think we'll make it in time for the second lesson, the old Hokage said with a good-natured smile, removing the noodles from his long and scarlet locks. Yes. Meanwhile at the academy. Who is not present in class today? Irika asked the children. Uzumaki Naruto is gone again, sensei, answered the pink-haired girl. The same names again, the young man said thoughtfully, after which he left the office with a piece of paper in his hand. I don't even understand how this tomato was accepted into the academy, the fair-haired girl was indignant. I support you, Ino. Not only does she constantly skip classes, but her parents themselves tell her to stay away from her. Sakura, I think they are right. Good students shouldn't hang out with losers and hooligans, am I right, Sasuke-kun? That's what the black-haired boy answered. So, let's begin, said the teacher who entered the class. But he was prevented from finishing his sentence by a clumsy, red hurricane that flew into the classroom. Sorry for being late, sensei. Naruto? Please take your seat. Next time, be kind and don't be late, Irika's answer was a nod. After a long and boring, in Naruto's opinion, lesson, a long-awaited change came. The guys left the office and went outside, but there are those who continued to be there. A couple of girls were squeaking around Sasuke's desk and 2 more were sitting in the middle row. I think the old man was right. Don't stop there. After all, they won't hit me in the forehead for trying to make friends with someone, Uzumaki thought out loud, walking towards where the two were. Chipsinka! The boy screamed sharply. Hello, the boy didn't let her finish, bending sharply for a fallen chip, hitting his forehead against the red-haired girl's forehead. Well, yes, how can they not hit me, Naruto muttered, sitting on the floor and rubbing the bruised area. Choji, no matter how many times I tell you, don't pick it up from the floor. If you don't feel sorry for your stomach, feel sorry for the people around you. Oh, how problematic everything is. Are you okay? Asked the second boy, helping Naruto get up. Sorry, I didn't notice you, answered the plump boy, Choji. Nothing, everything is fine. I'm fine, the girl answered, straightening her clothes. Naruto briefly looked straight ahead where she felt a small pocket of chakra. It was Shikamaru, who was also interested in looking. For the rest of the break, the guys joked and laughed, which surprised those around them. I wanted to ask you, maybe today after school we can all go for a walk together? Uzumaki, blushing to match the color of her hair, rumbled. I don't mind, and you Choji? Answered the dark-haired one. Same, but I need to go home and get something to eat first. Well, then we agreed. Everyone returned to class and lessons continued. And the boy who had previously been talking to Naruto lay down on his desk and looked at the Uzumaki without much attention to those around him. Shikamaru was shocked by her unusually beautiful eyes. Soft blue, with a silver tint. They shimmered like precious stones. Before that, he did not pay attention to them, since they are always covered with red bangs. Only her pink cheeks were visible, on which there were 3 symmetrical stripes. They resembled a cat's whiskers. Also plump little lips. And why does everyone avoid her? Little Nara asked himself inaudibly and quietly. Then he heard a short, but somehow thoughtful. Turning around, he noticed Sasuke, who was sitting not far from him, and he heard Shikamaru's question. The Uchiha looked at him and then stared at Naruto, who seemed to be floating in the clouds rather than listening to the teacher. The lessons are over. The children went home in small groups, where their parents, brothers and sister were waiting for them. Little Uzumaki, who left her first class, was swinging on a swing that was located near the academy. Shikamaru, Choji, I'm here. Naruto called the guys. Guys, you go, and I'll catch up with you later, Choji said. Wait, I have an idea. Naruto squeaked, we'll all go to Ichiraku Ramen together for a snack. Great. Let's go to Ichiraku. The fat man supported. I don't think this is a good idea, responded the little heir of the Nara clan. Come on, Shikamaru. It will be fun, and we'll have a snack at the same time. Uzumaki said, jumping off the swing. But it's fun, he muttered, counting his pocket money. How problematic everything is. The kids had a really fun time at Ichiraku Ramen, but maybe not everyone. Naruto, this is the 5th serving. Of course, I understand that you have an argument, but this is a stupid idea to outdo Choji. Shikamaru, don't be a bore, the guys responded in one voice. Everything stopped after 7 servings of ramen. It's a draw, stated Shikamaru, who was watching the fight. Your bill, the owner of the establishment, Old Man Tucci, thrust a piece of paper. Shikamaru took it. Well, I warned you, Nara exhaled, after which he took out everything he had from his pockets. Next, they hurried to do the same for Naruto and Choji, but it was still not enough. Lax. Stop. I'm here now. Uzumaki shouted and ran somewhere. A couple of minutes later she was walking, accompanied by Umbu. The boys, perplexed, blinked their eyes and tried to understand what was happening. Ninja-san, I need your help, the red-haired girl said with a serious expression on her face. You need to see this, she continued, handing over a piece of paper with the bill. As soon as the young Umbu took it, the little Uzumaki, instantly grabbing her friends, ran away. 15 servings of pork ramen? Naruto, did you order everything? Naruto? Naruto! The ninja shouted, realizing that he had been cheated like a small child. He had no choice but to pay. Ahahaha, the guys laughed. They were lying on the soft grass at one of the training grounds. Choji! Choji! A woman shouted somewhere in the distance. It's Mom, I need to go. We'll meet tomorrow at the academy. Little Akimichi said goodbye. See you tomorrow, Kazdi, the children said goodbye to him. Who was it, Naruto? Well, in Ichiraku, asked Shikamaru. And this, Ninja-san, he's been looking after me for a long time. With this Naruto began her short story. She talked about her childhood spent alone, about how, for some reason unknown to her, everyone hated her. But she never mentioned how difficult, offensive and painful it was. But she only claimed that she would soon become the Hokage's assistant, and all the villagers would recognize her. Now everything is different, I have friends. Friends? Shikamaru drawled. Yes. We're friends now. Naruto answered without any hesitation. Shikamaru smiled at her words and continued to look at the clouds. My first true friend, Uzumaki smiled to her thoughts. For the time being, we may not notice the people around us or pretend not to notice. But there come moments of collision with a person who has always been there, and our worldview changes, but whatever. We ourselves change. These people and their actions change us. First of all, they rebuild the structure of our thoughts and feelings. I think it's time to finish the warm-up. Let's repeat the seals, said a young man in an Umbu uniform. Phew. But, Ninja-san, I remember them even without that. The out-of-breath Uzumaki began to protest. And we will check this now. Rat, bull, tiger, rabbit, horse. Stop. You have the wrong horse seal. With these words the man approached Naruto and helped him place her fingers correctly. Then he ordered me to repeat it several times myself, pronouncing the names out loud. Great, except that the horse's seal let you down. Well, it doesn't happen to anyone, doesn't it, Ninja-san? The red-haired girl made a stupid smile. I agree, but don't forget that you are a future shinobi, and the slightest mistake in a real battle can lead to death. And it's not as scary if she is yours as the fact that your comrade may die through your fault, the member of the Umbu said with notes of dissatisfaction and sadness. The girl looked serious and thought about what was said. I won't allow this, Ninja-san. Naruto said with confidence. Echem. Well, then it's worth practicing throwing kunai and shuriken. They had their own plan of action regarding this. During her training, Naruto learned to hit targets. It was not easy, since these targets did not contain chakra, on which the young Jinchuriki relied. The solution to the problem came unexpectedly. The young Umbu carved deep, medium-sized glasses on a tablet, each of them pointed to a specific, also carved, number. It looked like a dial. Thus, the girl learned to tell the time on an ordinary watch that did not have protective glass. And she learned the most important thing, throwing bladed weapons. True, there were still some nuances. The young man needed to be told the location of the target, much like now. Naruto, for 2 hours, there was a soft whistle, and the kunai found its target, okay. 12 o'clock, 9. Well, now let's try in motion. All the girl's actions were deft and fast. The throwing continued until the kunai and shuriken ran out. I'm pleased. Just a little more and you will be able to hit all the targets. And now you must aim at me. Oh, it's so easy. Naruto was delighted. It's too early to rejoice, I didn't finish. At the same time, you must dodge my attacks. The Uzumaki are in a stupor, because such training has never happened before. What? But how will I understand where the kunai is flying if Naruto was not destined to finish? Well, if you admit defeat so easily, I think you should forget about your dream of becoming, the Umbu began in a bored voice, but was then interrupted in the same way. What more? Get ready to take on the great strike of Uzumaki Naruto, the Jinchuriki shouted, kicking the young shinobi and raising her hand to strike, which contained a kunai. But there was no one in that place anymore. Too slow, I don't understand where the ninja came from, and delivered a strong blow to the stomach. Naruto jumped a short distance and grabbed her stomach. Suddenly, a kunai flew near her face, leaving a small cut on her cheek. The girl froze in place. Her finger slowly ran over the cut, leaving a smeared trail of scarlet blood. Get yourself together, Naruto, she heard the stern voice of her enemy. So that's what it is, she said thoughtfully. She finally understood. The entire circulation of the chakra is before her eyes, and from it she can see what direction her fingers are taking. Calculating the flight was not difficult. But on the weapon itself there are traces of that same chakra, which was very useful for the blind girl. A second later, she launched a kunai towards the speaker. But he didn't have to wait long. Dodging the girl's kunai, the young ninja launched 3 shuriken at once, in the hope that Uzumaki would fight off at least one. But to his great surprise, 3 broken shuriken fell to the ground. And the girl took a defensive stance, holding her kunai in her right hand, which was at the level of her mouth. The second, clenched in a fist, at the level of the stomach. The legs were spread wide apart. The young Umbu's attention was drawn to the red-haired woman's facial expression, so serious and concentrated. Her whole appearance said that she was ready for battle and did not intend to give up. After a couple of seconds, as if sensing each other, they rushed off. For an 8-year-old, Naruto had good speed, but still not enough to inflict any blow on an experienced shinobi. Understanding the complexity of the situation, she was in no hurry to despair. Their kunai met, making an unpleasant grinding sound. Uzumaki wanted to strike with her free hand, but at that same second she felt a sharp pain in her side, inflicted by the foot of the Anushnik. The girl flew a short distance, while still driving along the ground. Hissing in pain, but rising to her feet, she moved forward with the last of her strength, while launching the remaining shuriken at the ninja. Realizing that it was useless, the red-haired girl pulled out another kunai from her pouch. Having thrown it behind her back, it seemed that she had miscalculated her own serve and lost her weapon. But it was not to be. Naruto caught him with her free hand that was behind her back. With her fingers she pushed the kunai so that it was located all over her palm. Then she clenched her fist, from which now only an imperceptible point protruded. A raised hand with a visible kunai passed the man, but his attack at the same second cut the girl's shoulder. Not yet feeling pain, the Jinchuriki raised her fist with the blade sticking out of it and pointed it at her opponent's face. The blow hit the mask, after which the young shinobi jumped back into the distance. I think that's enough for today. It's already late. Yes, all your strength has already dried up, he said, putting the weapon back into his pouch. Then he went to the red-haired woman to examine the wounds. I almost got you, Uzumaki said with a tired but wide smile, sitting on the grass. I wouldn't say so, he answered, examining the deeper cut on his shoulder, which, quietly hissing, slowly began to heal. Fox, having treated the cuts, the man and the girl headed towards the hostel. After walking Naruto home and making sure that she had gone to bed, the young Umbu went towards the rock where the Hokage's faces were carved. There he sat down on the memorial and looked around the village with a thoughtful look. Then his hand reached for the mask. Taking off the mask, he looked at it and was about to put it aside, when a deep scratch immediately attracted his attention. He stared at her in surprise. What a cunning one, the young shinobi laughed, realizing what was happening. That Naruto, Uzumaki heard through her sleep. Just 5 more minutes, she muttered. Good morning, Naruto. Get ready, today at the academy you will have a test of knowledge, that is, a test. Try to pass with flying colors, the young Umbu hastened to inform. I always said that mornings are never good, the girl grumbled, getting out of bed. Hurry up, the man disappeared with this word. And Naruto began to get ready. Going outside, the girl noted that it was quite cool and it had recently rained. Taking a deep breath of fresh air, she continued her way to the academy. Having reached the appointed place, she entered the building where there was a whole stream of children of completely different ages. Feeling the familiar chakra, Uzumaki headed towards it, which led her to the classroom. Hello Choji, Shikamaru, she waved to her new friends. Oh, look, the tomato is stuck, Ino squeaked, but Naruto didn't pay attention to it. Soon the lesson began, during which Iruka gave a written test on various topics of the material covered. Naruto took it orally, which not everyone in the class liked. Many in the village knew that Uzumaki Naruto, the demon carrier, was blind. But only the high school kids understood the meaning of the word disabled, the rest didn't even think about its meaning. The children simply imitated their parents and high school students. But every year many people got tired of seeing constant honors towards Uzumaki. What's so special about it? The children asked. To which the parents began to tell them about the girl's blindness, assuring them that she was not special, Kami-sama simply deprived her of normal vision. From then on, it became more difficult for Naruto to try to connect with everyone. Now these were not simple harmless jokes, but a kind of contempt, clearly indicating her shortcomings and manifestations of his superiority over her. End of the school day. The children ran away in all directions. After saying goodbye to her friends, Naruto remained swinging on the swing, thinking about her own things. My mood evaporated and I suddenly felt lonely. A couple of minutes later it started to rain, which didn't scare the girl one bit. And the last students left the academy. One of them turned out to be Sasuke. He stopped when he saw Uzumaki on the swing and, after thinking a little, headed in her direction. Having reached Naruto, Sasuke silently sat down directly on the wet grass, leaning his back against a tree trunk. His gaze was directed somewhere into the distance. Naruto perfectly felt the familiar chakra next to her. But I couldn't give an exact definition of whose it was, because I paid little attention to people who were just standing there or passing by. It was important for her to remember the chakra of only dear people. But now there was no desire to find out who owned this one. She continued to swing silently on the swing. The rain has stopped. But the clouds did not want to go away, and thickened more and more over Konoha. It is unknown how much time passed, but the guys were still silently next to each other. This silence did not bother either of them, it was somehow calm and comfortable. But soon, the young Jinchuriki jumped off the swing and headed towards her home. Sasuke then followed suit, heading in the completely opposite direction. And some would consider it strange, but the guys knew the reason for their behavior. They listened to each other in silence. And we left with the feeling that it was the best conversation ever. Pain can destroy a person. And this is not only about physical pain, because in addition to it there is moral pain. We may not understand either ourselves or our own behavior until we experience the pain for our losses. It cripples a person from the inside, forcing him to turn his face to a certain cruel reality and accept it. There are moments in every person's life when the world seems to collapse for him. This is called despair. The soul at this hour is full of shooting stars. Consequences? Yes, no one can imagine what happens to a person during this period. It's just that a part of ourselves dies in each of us and we can never become who we were before. In any case, we need to treat ourselves and others with understanding so that all our changes are humane. The sky is rapidly darkening. The menacing darkness hanging over Konoha slowly began to dissipate. The wind got stronger, with its help, the starry sky got rid of unfriendly clouds. Strong gusts, getting stronger each time, are ready to tear branches from the tops of trees in their path. On a deserted street, in the middle of the road, a young guy was walking. He walked slowly, as if completely exhausted. But someone's voice, still quite childish, made him stop. "Why? No. You couldn't. It wasn't my brother who did this." The black-haired boy shouted, choking with tears. The older guy let out a nervous laugh. After which, he slowly turned around and looked at the screamer. The boy involuntarily shuddered when he saw the Manjiko Sharingan, whose gaze showed coldness and indifference. "I am your older brother, as you wanted me to be. Someday you will become my rival. Despise me, hate me. You always wanted to surpass me. That's why I left you alive. For your own sake. One day, you too will possess such eyes, but on one condition: you must kill your best friend, the one who is dear to you. Run. Run away. Cling to life. My stupid little brother." Then he turned away and closed his eyes. The moon, released from behind the curtain, illuminated everything around. The guy's expression was calm, as if he had not just uttered such terrible words that literally pierced the boy's heart. But the barely noticeable trail on her cheek from a single tear glistened in the moonlight. A moment, and he sharply opened his eyes, in which the pain that had not yet been completely suppressed shone. Turning to his younger brother, he said, "You must survive, Sasuke, to kill me. Tsukiyemi." The morning was surprisingly very quiet. The village, shrouded in darkness, basked peacefully in the fog. In the old dormitory, from a small apartment, the quiet sobs of a little girl could be heard, tossing and turning on a narrow wooden floor. Soon, covered in cold sweat, she fell off it. Taking a sitting position, the girl said weakly, "It was just a dream, as if I were convincing myself of it." A drop of cold sweat rolled down her temple, sliding smoothly through the barriers of red wet hair stuck to her face. Hands reached to the neck. Unpleasant sensations remained both in the throat and in the soul. A dark corridor, shabby walls, dim light, it was unknown where it came from. The entire room was literally flooded. The silence, so oppressive and frightening. Little Uzumaki stood in the middle of that same corridor, her legs were almost knee-deep in water. "Where I am?" She asked her question into the void, into an unknown place, from where it reeked of hatred and something else. Standing still and pondering further actions, the girl nevertheless decided to use shinobi tricks. Concentrating, Naruto used her chakra to easily move through the water, which was not yet very good for the girl. At the same time, she suddenly felt a splash of that same water, and before that, her eyes, which had not seen anything, now observed a strange movement. "What is this? Chakra? Some kind of strange," she asked, perplexed, looking at the blue and orange streams. Walking in the direction of the supposed driving chakra, Uzumaki entered a huge hall where she saw many different directions and intersections beneath her. A fascinating sight. But there was something besides this, something dark and terrible. This made me feel uneasy. The blue-eyed girl's heart was ready to simply jump out of her chest. Feeling some danger behind her, the red-haired girl hesitantly began to turn around. A deafening roar, after which Naruto, unable to stand on her feet, fell into the same chakra water, which in depth could not be compared with that which was in the corridor. Trying to swim to the surface, the girl noticed that it was as if someone was pulling her to the bottom, if there was such a thing. Her strength instantly left her. After a couple of seconds, starting to panic, she simply began to waste oxygen from her lungs. The chakra in which the girl was located was no longer visible, everything around her suddenly became dark. The cold penetrated to the bones, and moments of her lonely days, undeserved beatings, and the unfair treatment of others flashed before her eyes. An unpleasant burning sensation arose in her chest, and a lump rolled up to her throat. The Uzumaki clutched her clothes in the chest area, and her face was distorted in pain. The last bubble of air escaped from her small mouth and headed upward. Naruto, as if seeing this, raised her gaze to follow him. Unfortunately, the instinct of self-preservation, like that of any other living creature, took over the girl's mind, and she immediately took a breath, which contributed to the instant penetration of water into her lungs. Clutching her throat with her hands, Uzumaki writhed from the terrible sensations. My throat burned, my lungs seemed to be torn apart and filled with lava. With one breath comes a second. The girl squeezed her neck as much as she could, but it didn't help. The whole body seemed to be filled with lead, a slight tingling sensation was already felt in the arms and legs. The heavy eyelids began to droop, the hands loosened their grip. The girl no longer felt the cold, but her body still trembled. But only pain and resentment raged in my soul, which gave rise to hatred. But I'll still become an assistant to the old Hokage, and you'll see I'll even take his place. And then everyone will recognize me. Echoed in her head, to which the red-haired girl's eyes suddenly widened. Having made sure that she could still move her arms and legs, Uzumaki, without wasting a second, began to make new attempts to get to the surface, only now she was calm and confident that she would succeed, it should work. And after a few moments, deep breath. After which Naruto found herself lying on the floor. After washing up and having breakfast, the girl got to work on her clothes and headed to school. Along the way, near the swing that was located opposite the academy building, Naruto heard screams to the side, where there were only trees and bushes. Stopping and turning her attention towards the voices coming, she immediately recognized the chakra of her classmate Hinata, but the rest were unknown to her. Making her way through the bushes, Naruto began to clearly hear some of the boy's words and the sobs of the little heiress of the Hyuga clan. "Louder, creature. I cannot hear," said the boy, poking her nose on the ground like the last kitten. "Excuse me," she said uncertainly. The boy was clearly not satisfied with this answer, and he raised his hand for another blow, but was rudely stopped. The others stood with surprised faces and looked at their friend, who was now lying next to Hinata and writhing in pain. No one simply had time to understand what happened. Uzumaki was standing behind them when they noticed her. "Oh, so this is the same rubbish that does not allow people to live in peace in the village," exclaimed one of those present. Naruto involuntarily shuddered. She easily missed the blow to her heart from the spoken words, which was clearly made clear by her face, which grimaced as if the kunai itself had entered it, her heart. The next moment, the boy stood up and attacked the red-haired girl with his fists. He was not bad at taijutsu for his age, but Uzumaki, already skillfully, avoided blows. "Demon!" The attacker literally spat out, which brought out the blue-eyed Jinchuriki, who at the same moment raised her leg to strike, to which the boy did not have time to react. But she didn't even think about stopping, but only with great effort began to drive her offender into the ground. Without thinking for long, the watching boys ran to help their friend. She repulsed the attack of one Uzumaki without hindrance, but physically she simply did not have time to attack the second one who attacked from behind. After all, she is only 8, and they look about 12, and there were 3 attackers. Having missed the blow, the girl grabbed her bruised side, but still stood confidently in anticipation of a new attack. "Well, that's it, demon, now we'll show you," the boy picking him up from the ground said, spitting out blood. He himself stood staggering from side to side. The 2 who were nearby did not wait for that and rushed towards the blue-eyed one. It turned out that they literally squeezed the girl from both sides, but she still coped perfectly. Block. A blow to the jaw. U-turn. Kick from the foot. She sat down and performed the sweep correctly. Then a back somersault. Slope. The blow, unfortunately, was unsuccessful as the third boy finally decided to intervene. With a quick movement, he grabbed the hand Naruto raised to strike and pulled it towards himself. He then turned it around so that the girl's elbow was facing down at him, then he delivered a strong blow opposite the bend, with the palm of his free hand, which resulted in an unpleasant sound, breaking bones. The little Uzumaki, whose legs gave way from the surging pain, restrained herself with all her strength. But still, she stood on her legs, bent at the knees, with her good hand holding the forearms of her broken arm, and her head was lowered. Everyone stared at her, waiting for the moment the girl fell. "And Naruto," whispered the crying and frightened Hyuga, who was watching the fight. The pain was wild, but, continuing to remain silent, the girl raised her head. Everyone was ready to see anything at that moment, but not a smile. Uzumaki stood, not paying any attention to the flowing hot tears. She smiled with her sincere, pure and wide smile with all her teeth. "It's okay, Hinata. You have nothing to fear," she said calmly, to which the punks got angrier than ever and rushed at her with their fists. "Hinata-sama!" An adult man shouted from the side of the academy, who, in fact, was supposed to look after the heiress of the great Hyuga clan. "Let's run!" One of the boys screamed and rushed to run away from there. The rest followed him, finally kicking the demon carrier. "There you are, Hinata-sama. Let's go," said the one who appeared. "But there's Naruto. She needs help," the blue-haired girl said quietly and uncertainly. "Hinata-sama, you were ordered not to communicate with this rabble. Let's go." He spoke more demandingly. "But she's because of me," still the same quiet voice, after which only retreating steps could be heard. And Naruto remained lying on the damp ground after the rains. Uzumaki woke up when dusk was rapidly gathering over Konoha. Overcoming pain and wild fatigue, the red-haired woman with tears in her eyes tried to rise to her feet. "KSOO!" she shouted, getting up from the ground. A few minutes later, Naruto emerged from the dark thickets. Battered and pretty exhausted, there was a small bone sticking out, and blood still had not stopped oozing from the wound. Taking her forearm with her good hand, Uzumaki trudged towards the house. On the way, everyone just turned around with nasty grins, saying, "You got enough, not enough. You should have more." No one thought to take the child to the hospital. First of all, for everyone, they saw the demon fox in the person of the 8-year-old girl. And for those who had some semblance of sympathy and remorse, it was to their advantage that she was blind. The very thought that the girl wouldn't see them, and therefore wouldn't judge them, made her calmly pass by, even if they beat her. "Naruto! What happened to you?" Out of nowhere a man appeared in an umbu uniform. "Ninja-san," the last thing that came out of the lips of Uzumaki, caught by the man. The sounds became less quiet, combining into an unbearable roar. It seemed to come from everywhere. Suddenly, there was a creak of the door opening. The sound of confident steps was heard more and more clearly. Soon they stopped very close to where the little girl was lying, after which silence fell. A couple of minutes later the door made a quiet creak again, followed by, "Hokage-sama, it's time." The elderly man turned his gaze to the speaker and turned it back to the girl, and a deep and tired sigh left his thin, wrinkled lips. With a barely noticeable nod, he headed towards the door. Click and silence. She again. So enveloping, fencing off from all other fuss. Dark red eyelashes trembled slightly, releasing a sleepy tear. Pink lips parted in a morning yawn. Having driven away the uninvited thoughts clouding her head, the red-haired woman noticed that the room where she was smelling musty, mixed with a slightly sharp and sour smell of medical preparations. And only after that the strong, already familiar smell of tobacco reached her, which gradually disappeared. The girl hurried to get out of bed, feeling everything around in search of her clothes. Going out into the street, the blue-eyed girl hurried home. She didn't run away. She just decided to leave because she felt much better. No one was going to stop her or hinder her in any way. What do they care about Jinchuriki? Today was a difficult day, said the elderly man, bringing the smoking pipe to his mouth. You are right, Hokage-sama. The young Umbu answered. I didn't think it would turn out like this. The old man got up from his table and headed to the window. His gaze fell on the hospital. Remembering his morning visit, he said, before the burial ceremony of the Uchiha clan, I visited Naruto. Naruto. How is she? The young shinobi asked without any emotion. The Hokage smiled, biting his pipe. Don't worry, she's all right, the young ninja exhaled barely audibly, and the old man took on a serious look, which made his subordinate wary. As I understand it, he was interrupted. Yes. In that day. You were removed not only because you needed help, although this is true, but the council raised this issue even before the incident with the Uchihas. I was just stalling for time. Clear. The young Umbu answered still without emotion. But Sasuke is worth keeping an eye on now, but to tell the truth, you won't get this job either. Let's go for a walk, said the Hokage and went out. The guy stared at the head of the village with incomprehension, but obediently followed him. They went out onto the roof of the residence. Do you remember, once, in this place, I asked you to stay in my service in the Umbu squad? A lot of time has passed since then, but now I think that he is very angry with me. At this the old man smiled sadly, peering into the dark sky, where small grains of constellations had already begun to sparkle. It's time for you to rest, Kakashi. Who, if not me, should know and understand what you? It's my fault that I couldn't help you, as your sensei wanted to do. I'm sorry. Hokage-sama escaped from the young lips. The elderly man looked at his interlocutor and extended his hand, which after a couple of seconds contained a mask. A mask that seemed to become one with the young fighter. It has eaten into the skin, merged together, and nothing can separate them. But it only seemed, he could not even think that she would easily leave him. Deep autumn continued to approach, leading by the hand a restless and harsh winter. The trees bare their branches, creating a warm and bright blanket enveloping the cold earth. The villagers collected the remains of ripened crops from their lands. The children were enjoying the last warm and colorful days. Despite everything, life in the village was in full swing. What are you doing? A boy was heard screaming from the backyard of the academy. Are you completely crazy? Don't interfere, Shikamaru, I need to get rid of this shell urgently. The girl shouted in response, beating her hand on the bench on which the indignant man lay. And for me, Shikamaru is right, you have a stupid idea. The second boy, who was at the end of the bench, devouring his lunch, spoke up. And you too, Choji. She said upset, this cocoon is bothering me, Dadabayo. She began to pound with her hand with even greater force. Naruto, it's only been a week and a half since you've been walking around with a cast, and that's not enough. You need to give the bones time to heal. And then go to the hospital, they will remove it for you themselves. Nara answered, continuing to lie around. Everything is already fine with my hand, but this one, stretching his hand upward to show everyone, is only bothering me. P continued to hit, causing her friend's head to jump and hit. Directing all her strength to get rid of the unnecessary, Uzumaki raised her hand for a new, crushing, blow. Hey! She shouted, after which a crash and a bell were heard, drowning out the sound of falling bodies. Finally. Got rid of it. She sighed with relief. The white solid that had previously been holding his hand fell to the ground. Who would doubt you, Uzumaki? Shikamaru responded dissatisfied, lying on the ground with his butt facing up, on which Choji was sitting. Having understood the reason for her friend's dissatisfaction, she decided to assure him that everything was fine and his hand was really healthy. When she came across a suspicious pose from the guy's chakra. Boys, actually the call has already been made, we need to hurry up. She said with the most serious face, catch up. I could hear it already around the corner of the academy. That's it. The guys cursed, getting up, but with every movement of Nara, his plump friend leaned even more. After entering the classroom and apologizing, the boys took their places. They looked rather shabby, and Uzumaki, to be honest, her whole appearance spoke for itself. She was more than deeply imbued with their sensei's story about the correct use of throwing weapons. After a long story, the teacher led his students to the school playground where there were wooden targets. Each one came out one by one and tried to get to its center. True, not many were able to cope with this. You can immediately see who is from an ordinary family, and who has shinobi parents. It was Naruto's turn. Ignoring the stupid jokes of her classmates, she went out and received 5 shuriken. Try to hit the target, Naruto. Iruka said. Echem. Yes, I know. She frowned. Does even the teacher really see her as just a worthless weakling who won't succeed? And here is the first rash throw that did not reach its goal. Everyone laughed at her and joked, to which she only furrowed her eyebrows even more. I think it was a bad idea. The teacher said disappointedly, placing his hand on the girl's shoulder. What? Yes, the red-haired girl hissed with anger. She could only hit it a little under different conditions, but nevertheless she has 4 more attempts. Sasuke, go out and show the class for the last time how to throw correctly in order to hit the target. Yumino said, taking the weapon from the young Jinchuriki. The laughter began to grow, and the admiring voices of the girls were also heard. Sasuke-kun, deep sighs, squeaky tenderness. A black-haired boy walked next to Uzumaki, leaving behind him a trail of sweetish smell with the sourness of those same hospital medications. Come on, move away, I'm not finished. She shouted after him. You have already shown yourself. The Uchiha said without any mockery or emotion. The laughter of the guys drowned out my ears. How humiliating. Just look, she really is a tomato. The girl with pink hair shouted, pointing her finger at the blushing blue-eyed girl. A new wave of laughter followed by a serious expression on her face. Shikamaru frowned at his friend. What is she like now when everyone ridicules her? Slowly, her thin hands reached out to her scarlet hair, braiding it into a low ponytail, with small bangs bursting out and falling on her eyes. Suddenly she abruptly took off from her place. No one understood anything until they saw her near the brunette, who wanted to pick up the shuriken lying on the ground. Intercepting the weapon, the girl calmly said. I told you I wasn't finished. Everyone fell silent in surprise. Not everyone present noticed the red-haired woman's movement. And her behavior was something new for them. Come on, stop acting like that, Uzumaki. Iruka responded dissatisfied. Silly. Sasuke said with a grin, turning in the opposite direction. Don't underestimate me, upstart. She still said calmly. The black-haired man turned around. The girl's pale blue eyes looked sternly at him. This is the first time he had a chance to see them up close. They shimmered from silver to blue, which made me think that such eyes should not exist. Too strange, unusual. Too beautiful. Without saying anything, he moved towards the crowd and immediately a whistle was heard cutting the air. A sharp deflection in the shuriken was caught by the sensei, who could not utter a word from the overwhelming indignation, rage and surprise. The brunette immediately found himself next to Naruto. What are you allowing yourself to do? Then he grabbed her sharply by the shoulder, squeezing it painfully. Uzumaki herself was a little confused. Everything happened too quickly, but just as soon she assumed a calm look when Sasuke, on the contrary, was very angry. Let her go, Uchiha. The blue-eyed Shikamaru, who was behind him, lazily responded. Throwing a cold glance at Naru, he noticed what his facial expression was. This guy, previously not known for any activity, now intended to get involved in a fight, although not of his own free will. There was determination in the eyes. "Well, that's enough for me. Get everyone back to class," said Iruka, who grabbed Naruto by the scruff of the neck and dragged her behind him. "This is not fair." The Jinchuriki howled at the top of her voice. The rest began to laugh at her, the girls gloated, and only the second continued to glare at each other. Deciding to end this meaningless duel, Shikamaru relaxed and looked up at the sky, scratching the back of his head with his hand, and then followed the others, leaving the Uchiha alone with his thoughts. Perhaps this will pass with time. At first there is an unpleasant aching in the chest, and then, gradually, not immediately, but it will fade into the background. There are moments when a person who has managed to become something more than just a person for you leaves you. And only after that do you understand how important he was. Important only by his presence in your life. But he didn't say goodbye to leave, but simply evaporated, disappeared from her, leaving you alone. People often do this, but why? Maybe they will come back soon or give way to someone more significant. To those who are still on their way, who have not even reached the threshold of your soul. After all, in life everything is proportional. Summer foggy morning. The first rays of the sun have already appeared above the horizon. Gradually the fog dissipates, settling with dew on the fresh green grass. The streets were empty, only a few were already in a hurry, moving somewhere quickly enough. The village was awakening. In an old house, the creaking of almost rotten wooden floorboards could be heard from a small room. The sound of bubbling boiling water in an old kettle and the rustling of rough fabric. The red-haired girl was already fully awake, slowly weaving her legs around the room getting ready for the academy. After getting dressed and having a snack, she headed towards the exit, as always, without locking the door. "Yo, Choji, Shikamaru." The blue-eyed girl greeted. "Hello Naruto. You're not late today." Akimichi responded smilingly. "It's even strange," Nara said, yawning. "Pfft. That's it, Iruka-sensei. If it weren't for him with his punishments," Uzumaki said, pouting her lips and folding her arms over her chest. "Clear," Shikamaru answered. Afterwards, the guys just smiled silently, listening to the red-haired girl's dissatisfied statements about their sensei and how hard she had to pay for her pampering. With each new story, Uzumaki's emotions became more and more overwhelming, and she began to gesticulate wildly, concentrating only on the story and its listeners. The boys were amused by this behavior of their friend, but the excessive volume and activity quickly tired the lovers of peace and quiet. "And where is the justice, Databe?" she shouted, spreading her arms, and then a pop was heard. It came to the guys. "Oh. Sorry, did I offend you too much?" The young Jinchuriki immediately caught herself. It's okay, Naruto-chan, and I'm sorry," the blue-haired girl said uncertainly, holding her nose and hurried to her place. "Chan?" the blue-eyed girl repeated in surprise. If Sakura or Ino were in Hinata's place now, they wouldn't get away with just Chan. Choji laughed, "She is very kind and friendly." Uzumaki didn't answer. Very soon everyone took their places, and the teacher appeared in the office and began the lesson. Over time, Naruto, studying was not as easy as it was at first. No additional classes were given to her. Naturally, I couldn't read anything myself. Therefore, she relied only on the knowledge received from the ninja-san. I also tried to remember as much information presented in the lesson as possible. But it was not as easy as it might seem at first glance. She began to put too much on herself and demand too much from herself, but she clearly did not want to rely on anyone else and resort to his help. Since we have everything today, it's time to conduct traditional sparring, which has been carried out from generation to generation. After which Yumino led his students to the site. So, as you can see, there is a building here that is strictly forbidden to enter. Anyone who falls outside of it during the battle is considered a loser. Also, before starting a fight, you must form your fingers in a certain symbol, which represents half of the seal used for ninjutsu. Of course, I understand that this is just a formality, but the great Kage already established such an order. It is my job and the general business of the academy to teach you the basics. Let's try. Let's start with Nara Shikamaru and Akimichi Choji. Leaving the red-haired one sitting cross-legged separately from the rest of the guys, they went out and sat opposite each other in the middle of the outlined circle. The boys looked quite serious, but not one of them dared to start the fight. After a short silence, Shikamaru exhaled. "Sensei, I give up," Nara said, and then the guy's discontent was immediately heard. But he wanted to object. "Move on to the next pair," Shikamaru said with the same calmness. "Fine. Place your hands in the symbol of harmony, that is, the original symbol of fight, clasp your fingers between each other. This confirms that you are still comrades." The sparring continued. The trio was still on the sidelines, watching the battles. "Who do you think they'll put you with, Naruto?" Shikamaru asked his question. "I have no idea," she answered, shrugging, "but I definitely won't lose." Shikamaru, looking at Uzumaki, thought that she was too confident of victory. This is of course good, but it is worth noting that she is younger and smaller than everyone else here, and besides, it is not surprising if no one worked with her, unlike the other guys. Unless she herself. "Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki." The teacher called. "Me." "Shikamaru," said the Jinchuriki, rising to her feet. What is the area of the drawn circle?" Nara stared at the blue-eyed girl in disbelief. "Well, how would it be simpler?" If you measure it in steps, then how much?" It was not convenient for her to ask. Seeing this, the boy did not let her finish. 10 steps from the central point, the one where the sensei will be during the greeting," Nara answered, still looking at the girl with no understanding. "Understood." She nodded and rushed to the teacher. "So, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto," Yumino repeated. "What? Is it right for a boy to fight a girl, no matter how strong she is?" muttered the boy who had a small puppy on his head. "This is definitely not right." The boy standing next to him supported him, whose face could not be seen because of the high collar and glasses. "Do you think you will be given a choice between enemies in the future? And whether the girl falls for the guy or vice versa, will you refuse to fight, giving the enemy the opportunity to overthrow you and your comrades? And all because he is a girl?" The guys fell silent at this. A clear grin appeared on Naruto's face. She was ready for this, and she would not be the first to fight with a boy. Most likely, she would be confused if her opponent now was a girl. And in this case, you don't have to limit yourself in the strength of the blows delivered. And yet, remembering the past year, or rather the speed of reaction to a thrown shuriken, the Uchiha is well trained. "Sensei, it will still be better if you pair me with someone else, for her own good. I'm not going to give in and strike only half-heartedly, sparing her." Sasuke finally raised his voice. "Do you care what might happen to me?" said Naruto. "Does it matter?" He mentally repeated the question, thinking it over. "You're right, I don't care at all." "Yes, Sasuke-kun. Show her." The girl squealed animatedly. "So, since everyone has finally calmed down, you can begin," Irika said, walking away from the guys. Did he do the right thing by listening to the Hokage that he shouldn't infringe on Naruto in anything by underestimating her? Did he go too far by choosing Uchiha Sasuke for this sparring? Synchronously clasping their fingers in the symbol of fight, they instantly rushed at each other. While everyone was talking, Uzumaki had more than enough time to calculate where the edges of the circle were located and take further action so as not to step over it. The first punch was delivered by Sasuke, from whom Naruto easily hit his right side, but in just a few seconds he made a 180-degree turn while raising his right leg to strike. So fast, thought the red-haired girl, taking the blow on her hands placed in front of her. Block? The Uchiha was surprised, and then felt small hands clasp his leg. Sharply pushing the black-haired man away from her, but at the same time not letting go of his leg, but only changing the positions of her hands, she pulled him back towards her. The boy's second leg, which served as a support in this attack, gave way, unable to hold its owner. Continuing to hold with only one left hand, the girl crouched slightly in the wake of the falling Sasuke and, without wasting a second, delivered a strong blow with her free hand to the solar plexus. Everyone watching the battle was silent, so the dull sound of a falling body was heard quite loudly and clearly. Uzumaki, deciding to take a fighting stance rather than take advantage of the Uchiha's position, hurried to move away from him, calculating for herself that she was 6 steps away from him. Not bad at all for a girl. Sasuke said, rising to his feet, you are too self-confident since you consider yourself equal to me. And you are too narcissistic, as I can see. Uzumaki answered in the same tone as the Uchiha. To this, the black-haired man did not wait for anything, but again rushed into the attack, delivering blow after blow, which Naruto only parried. Speed. He has excellent speed, which does not give him the opportunity to strike back, but only forces him to dodge and put up blocks in every possible way. Again, only the hands are involved. Deciding to take advantage of the chance, the blue-eyed girl sat down in a half-split. She pointed her exposed leg for a sharp kick, but he, not wanting to lose any more support, jumped from the footrest aimed at him. Immediately Sasuke struck back, raising his leg. To a greater extent, the blow fell on the hands protecting the head, but this did not help to completely reflect it. The blow was strong enough that it contributed to a powerful fall and even allowed me to ride on the gravel, tearing my entire right side. "Exo," said the Jinchuriki, clutching her head, which was spinning quite a bit, preventing her from getting to her feet normally. "I think we can finish this, sensei," the Uchiha said coldly, still watching the Uzumaki. "I think you're right," he began. "No. I do not give up. I can still fight," shouted the girl, who rose to her feet, whose head was still spinning and did not allow her to stand in one place motionless. In order not to fall, she placed her left foot to the side, so that now her legs were spread wide apart, maintaining the balance of her entire body. Uchiha Sasuke 1. "Now you must form the symbol of harmony, and you can," Iruka continued. "Hey! I can still fight. It's not fair. Why did they count me a defeat?" Naruto was furious. "You just crossed. You," the black-haired one calmly explained, watching how misunderstanding, grief and anger were reflected on the red-haired woman's face. XOXOXO. "This is your fault, dumbass. What an asshole, he deliberately pushed me into this. You like to play dirty, right?" She literally burst into flames. "Well, it begins," Shikamaru said lazily, covering his eyes with his hand. "I." The girl howled, rubbing the back of her sensei's bruised head. "My head, Databe. I told you that this fight is a sacred tradition." He couldn't stand it. Iruka approached the calmly standing Uchiha, holding the Uzumaki by the scruff of the neck, which he literally dragged along with him. "And now the symbol of harmony," the teacher ordered, releasing her. Coming closer to each other, Naruto and Sasuke were about to stretch out their hands to create a symbol, when they suddenly grabbed each other by the chests. "Do you want to really fight, loser?" The boy literally growled, looking into his blue eyes. "I'll hit you now, you cretin," the girl said in the same tone as the Uchiha. "Stop it." The teacher hastened to separate them. "Hey, idiot, come on, apologize to Sasuke-kun," the pink-haired girl yelled. They chuckled in one voice and finally silently dispersed. The lessons ended, the children said goodbye to each other and ran home. But some guys were in no hurry to leave the academy, crowding in groups, discussing the events of the day. The red-haired girl sat on the swing, swaying slightly on it. Next to her was a dark-haired boy, leaning his back against a tree. "So you still need help?" What are you talking about?" The girl looked at her friend with misunderstanding. "I'm wondering what it's like when you don't even know what the sky looks like. How do you manage to navigate the terrain, and at the same time behave like," he faltered, "an ordinary, normal person?" Continued his words, to which the boy frowned. "Yes, I don't see everything around me, neither nature nor its colors. I have no idea what I am. Maybe that's why everyone shuns me and calls me names, because I look like I live up to my nickname. But, I don't care as much as before." "That's how it is," the listener said with some sadness. "Yes, not everything is as sad as it seems." Looked at him. "Even now I feel how your face has taken on an upset look. Just don't you dare feel sorry for me. In fact, I see it, just not like you. I see those 3 guys," said the red-haired girl, pointing towards the academy where the children were still there. "Looks like Sakura and Ino over there." She continued to move her fingers. "But how?" He asked his question in surprise. "I don't see people's bodies themselves, but the entire chakra circulation system. At first glance, it is the same for everyone, but this is not entirely true. It also gives me some advantage. But there are also many nuances, similar to today's. When Ninja-san worked with me, he tried to identify the advantages of my capabilities and coach me on the disadvantages. That's why sometimes I still need help." "That's it," said the boy, considering what he had said. "Hey, Shikamaru." The girl stopped swaying. "Yes, Naruto? What is the sky like? What does it look like?" she asked with some melancholy. The boy looked at his friend, and then turned his gaze to the sky. The silence lasted for several minutes. The dark-haired man was in no hurry to answer, because how can you explain something to a person who has nothing to compare it with? And it's simply impossible to compare the sky with anything. Unless it looks like your eyes. Nara unexpectedly said out loud to himself. Realizing what had just happened, he carefully looked at Naruto, who was blushing deeply, and at the same moment a small pebble flew into his forehead. "Oh!" He rubbed the bruised place. "Baka!" Her gaze was so serious and stern that Shikamaru fidgeted in place, but after a couple of seconds she suddenly laughed while swinging on the swing. The boy breathed out a sigh of relief and smiled. At the exit of the academy, a black top appeared, and the girls chatting nearby squealed and rushed towards its owner. "Sasuke-kun, maybe we can go somewhere, since classes are over?" the pink-haired girl squeaked. "He won't go anywhere with you, big-headed one." The blonde girl hit her on the head. "Sasuke-kun, maybe we can go to a cafe, I know the best." "Shut up, Ino pork!" she yelled, pushing her opponent away. The black-haired man did not pay any attention to them and continued on his way. But the ringing and clear laughter he heard made him stop. The interest was very great, to which he turned in search of its source. Seeing the red-haired girl swinging on an old, useless swing and laughing loudly in the company of her lazy friend made her involuntarily jerk her shoulder. Without a loud chuckle, he continued walking. "Sasuke is my kun." "No, it's mine." The girls continued to argue, but the next thing silenced them. "You're annoying." The last thing that was said by the Uchiha who was leaving the academy. "We are accustomed to believing that only a better, bright future awaits us in the future. In fact, tomorrow is not just the next day on the calendar, but hope. Hope that tomorrow we will stop deceiving ourselves, saying that everything is fine with us. With all the negativity that reigns around us, every day there is less and less room for everything positive and beautiful. Let go. The girl's hoarse voice can be heard. Just look at her. You are in no position to tell me, demon, said the guy, holding her by the throat and squeezing her thin neck harder. The girl grabbed his hand with hers in the hope of loosening his grip. And what are we going to do with her? Another boy, who was on the right side, spoke up. Like what? Let's make her answer for the death of our fathers. The offender answered irritably. I don't like all this, came the girl's voice. Naruko, wasn't it you who wanted the killer of your beloved uncle to be punished? Yes, she said somehow doomedly. At that same second, the girl was released and she literally collapsed to the ground, greedily inhaling the oxygen she was so missing. But before she had time to take a deep breath, she was immediately struck in the stomach, forcing her to release her lungs and bend over on her knees. Blow after blow, not even giving you the opportunity to get up. Pain. She felt her ribs cracking, but whatever, she literally heard it. The sounds of dull blows echoed and were heard more clearly than the words of the attackers. The girl's brain perceives only flashes of pain. Unable to endure it in silence any longer, painful moans were heard from the parted pink lips. Who said you get used to pain? No matter how hard you try, no matter what anyone says, it's simply impossible. You can only learn to tolerate it. Learn to live with it, but never get used to it. Take it, creature. New kick. And then everything stopped. The exhausted girl was imprisoned as if she were not a person at all, but just a simple broken doll. An alien hand lifted her head by the chin, running her thumb along her cheekbone and squeezed her face tighter. Naruko. Why are you standing there? Come here. Don't you see, she's not capable of anything. Show her what it's like to live with pain. Hesitant steps were heard. A faint breeze blew, drowning out all other noise. Strands of scarlet hair scattered, then fell on the girl's tanned face. Will this never end? Will her beloved village never recognize her as Naruto Uzumaki? She thought. But everyone just continued to spit poison at her, which, like acid, burns a hole in her chest. Why are you delaying? The guy asked with the same irritation. And then someone else's hand lets go of the red-haired head, but she didn't even have time to bend over before they hit the girl in the face. A weaker blow than the previous ones, but no less painful. Having fallen with her nose buried in the ground, she only tried to get more air into her lungs. Let's get out of here, there's nothing else to do here. All these 2 years, the girl, every now and then, received only according to merits unknown to her. After all, there is no supervision for her, and the Hokage is not visible nearby. Obviously there is no need to be afraid of punishment. And now, leaning against the shabby wall of the old house, the red-haired woman rose to her feet. A feeling of resentment burned in my chest. There was a strong pain in my sides, cracks, and maybe even broken ribs, which did not allow me to breathe deeply. Aching pain in the arms and legs, from tension and injuries. My head felt like it was splitting into many pieces. Hurtful words echoed through her over and over again. And from the corner of his lip, swollen from the blow, warm and salty tasting blood slowly flowed, which was immediately smeared with the back of his hand. Having found the strength to walk through the pain, she headed towards the house. The main street was quite busy. People walked along the road as if not noticing the red-haired girl, pushing and shoving her in every possible way. Having reached the appointed place, the girl began to take off her dirty clothes, throwing them into the basket. After washing herself, she took out from the drawer the bandages that were there for such occasions. Having taken a more comfortable position, she raised her arms as much as she could, gritting her teeth in pain. And she began to wrap herself, starting under the girl's formative breasts. Do everything yourself, rather than once again visiting the white walls of hospital wards. Having bandaged herself tightly, thereby limiting the excess mobility of her ribs, the girl began to take on her clothes. Having tied a dark cloth on her forehead, she went to the academy, which she was already late for a long time. Today is an important day, and another incident of this kind should not affect her and her goals. No, not today. Hello, Naruto. The chubby friend shouted from his place in the classroom. Hey guys. Uzumaki said calmly and quietly, with a smile on her face, as she sat down in her place. She seems worried about the exam. Akimichi muttered. Nara, who was sitting nearby, began to look at his late friend. I was hoping you would come, Naruto. You have already missed 2 tests, one of which is the technique of transformation, said the teacher who appeared in the classroom. Sensei, you know that this is a waste of time. I won't be able to perform this technique. The Jinchuriki answered quietly. And that's true, he said, scratching the back of his head, but it was still worth attending. Now in specially designated audience number 6, everyone will be called in turn. After which I will communicate the final results at the end of the exam you have completed. Yamanako Ino, follow me. I wish the rest of you good luck. And he disappeared with the blonde girl. Time passed and the number of children who passed the exam increased. Uzumaki, you're next. The black-haired boy announced without any emotion. She somehow awkwardly rose from her seat and headed towards the door. Finally, she will pass this exam and become a genin, a full-fledged shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. This is her time. One more step closer to the dream. No. Exactly to the goal. Uzumaki Naruto, this is my assistant for today, Mizuki-sensei. Let's get started. Yumino spoke. The exam was not difficult at all. It wasn't difficult for the girl to find answers to a couple of questions. One mission, set as an example, for which she must also quickly and accurately find a solution and justify her actions. And the final step was to perform simple grabs. And the last thing is the illusory clone technique, said Irika. Irika-sensei, isn't that all? Naruto asked, breathing heavily from her injury. She was quite nervous because she had not been able to do this technique either. Probably the fact is that an illusory clone is the simplest of genjutsu, for which the red-haired woman had no ability. Considering that she is the only one in her stream who cannot perform this technique. Deciding to try anyway, she created a seal, not so much in the hope that it might work, but because of her stubborn character. Bunshin no Jutsu. A barely noticeable cloud appeared near the girl, vaguely resembling a human figure. Sorry Naruto, you were last, go and take your place in the class. The teacher responded doomedly. Maybe it's worth it one more time, she said, folding the seal again. Naruto, the teacher tried to reach Uzumaki, who was still trying to perform the technique she hated, but was still not succeeding. Uzumaki, go to class. Yumino said sternly, to which she only nodded and left the room. Irika, the girl tried. In addition, her results are not bad for students at the boys' academy. It even seemed to me that she already had her own chosen style. True, it's clear that it's not quite polished. I would even say the girl is quite capable, said the person sitting next to him and watching his partner mark something on a piece of paper. He just nodded silently. After a couple of minutes, everyone in the class began to be seated to read the result. All of you are great and each of you deserves encouragement for your efforts. Irika began his speech, and then began to read out the names of those who passed the exam. So, tomorrow at the same time, all of the above, please come here to be presented with a protector indicating that you are now full-fledged genin of the Hidden Leaf. Sensei, what about me? Really? Exo. The blue-eyed girl said in her hearts, not believing in her failure. Look, the future assistant to the Hokage did not pass the simplest genin exam. Laughter was heard from all sides. Keikibakuin, the blue-haired girl said quietly and looked at Naruto with pity. The exam was not at all easy, it is not surprising that there are those who failed it. said another boy. Shino, it was difficult only for weaklings. And for me it's like 2 fingers on the asphalt. The boy with a small dog on his head did not stop. Naruto, not paying any attention to the exclamations of her classmates, stood up and headed towards the exit. Stopping right at the door, the girl turned to look at her friends. Shikamaru, Choji, congratulations. The Jinchuriki said with a smile. Naruto, Nara was about to say something when he was interrupted. See you. The girl waved her hand and disappeared behind the door. The teacher looked after the red-haired girl with regret. Maybe he was somehow strict with her, but the rules are the same for everyone. Taking into account its peculiarity, Naruto quite agrees in many ways, which happened for the first time in the entire existence of the Shinobi Academy. And if you consider that she is the bearer of unbridled enormous power, the demon fox. For this, it is generally worth bowing to the current third Hokage, who personally allowed her to study the art of ninja. Or condemned for rather reckless actions. Coming out of the academy, the red-haired girl was about to head towards the house when she felt a familiar chakra following behind her. Hey, what are you forgetting here? We're not done there yet. She asked in surprise. I don't have to answer your questions. The black-haired boy said coldly. Yes, it hurts. Uzumaki snorted in response and pointedly turned away. Kicking a pebble that fell under her foot and putting her hands in her pants pockets, the girl hurried away. Sasuke stood in the same place, apparently thinking about something. When the red-haired girl left the academy, he seemed to finally decide something for himself and followed her. Hey, why are you following me? The girl stopped and asked the boy following her displeasedly. He just chuckled quietly, but didn't stop. I'm talking to you, Uchiha. Silence in response. Don't you dare ignore me, you klutz. The black-haired man continued to remain silent, pretending not to notice her at all. Pfft, oh well. Chase as much as you like, I don't care. Do you hear? Doesn't matter. The young Jinchuriki did not let up. So why did he decide to follow her? Without knowing the exact answer, he examined her carefully. Still the same short stature and puny build. Fiery red hair, with a light breeze playing with it. Their color seemed to warn of the indomitable, ardent character of their owner. The length of the hair reached just above the waist. Slightly closed blue eyes in which anger and obvious interest were read. Quite a strange combination. And these unusual stripes on the cheeks, as well as the eyes. The face, previously clearly visible with an even tan, was now painfully pale. Still the same black, incomprehensible bandage on his forehead. A yellow jacket with a zipper, which is 2 sizes larger than her own. Long black knee-length pants. And of course, black typical shinobi shoes. Uzumaki Naruto. The same as everyone else, but not like anyone else. Standing right next to Uzumaki's house, she finally said. Uchiha, don't even hope, I won't let you into the house. The boy looked at her confusedly and then looked around. It's as if he just woke up, came out of sleep and doesn't understand everything that's happening to him. What's really wrong with you? Are you by any chance sick? She extended her hand to Sasuke's head in order to determine the temperature. But he deftly dodged and went back, only snorting at the end. The girl shrugged her shoulders and headed inside her apartment. Today she has a lot to think about. But tomorrow the Hokage will learn about her failure and will be unpleasantly upset, because he believed in her until the last. I promised. Early morning. A background of a brightening sky, on which silhouettes of trees appear. A cool breeze gently blew away the fog. The emerging edge of the sun began to illuminate the mighty mountains and tall trees. I just have to climb to the top of the rock and pour out this liquid. The girl's rather cheerful voice sounded, urging her to take action. The red-haired Jinchuriki stood at the stairs leading to the famous monument with the faces of the Hokage carved on it. In her hands there were a pair of cans of paint. The old man himself showed this road, and the Umbu watching her followed his example. But he took her to a certain person, the face of the fourth Hokage, to which she asked the question. Why here? The young shinobi laughed off the fact that he liked him more than the others and immediately added. But this does not mean that I do not appreciate the merits of the other leaders of the village. On the contrary, I respect and even admire their strength and wisdom. To tell the truth, even the blue-eyed one liked the fourth one, and what's more, she admired him just as much. After all, not everyone can sacrifice themselves for the sake of other people who are completely strangers to them. And the post and title of Hokage itself says nothing here. Only his name says. Minato Namikaze is a truly great man who saved the village from the nine-tailed fox demon. The price of which was one's own life. Having reached the place she had appointed, the girl began to count down step by step where and what kind of face was carved. It is not surprising that she was guided only by memory and calculation. Her brain remembered this kind of information quite quickly. Stopping, the blue-eyed girl said. Let's start the fun, Dadabayo. Meanwhile, at the Hokage residence, an elderly man was sitting at a wide table, smoking a pipe and sorting through piles of papers, when suddenly there was a knock on his door and a shinobi entered the room. The old man silently rose from his seat, listening attentively to him. Hokage-sama, there are the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, the newcomer said out of breath. Naruto you say, Sarutobi said looking out the window, looking at the creativity of the red-haired girl. Stop, Uzumaki! Shouted the man running after the red-haired woman. The girl ran, trying not to pay attention to curses and any other attempts to stop her. Hey, Naruto, stop talking to someone. Another voice was heard. The runner mechanically turned her head in the direction from where they were shouting. Suddenly she felt a familiar chakra ahead and, without having time to stop, she literally flew into this man, who turned out to be Iruka-sensei. The others who had previously pursued her were now standing nearby and loudly indignant. People on the road crowded together and watched the outcome with interest. As soon as the girl realized what was happening, she decided to hide again, because she would definitely be punished. But she was quickly caught by the collar of her clothes. Why did you do this, Naruto? The teacher asked sternly. Well, let me go. Get your useless little hands off. I don't have to report. She shouted. How dare you talk to me like that? Yumino growled, giving a weak slap. Ah. Uzumaki began to rub the bruised area. People crowding around began to be indignant and condemn the girl, while saying that she should be severely punished for vandalism. You don't understand anything. Cried the caught one, none of you could do this. But I did it. I'm simply inimitable. She said with an impudent grin. People looked at the girl with contempt. And the shinobi literally dragged the young prankster to the Hokage. Naruto, why did you do this? The gray-haired old man asked in surprise. The Uzumaki, not afraid of the dirty floor, sat down cross-legged, turning away. And after a couple of minutes of silence, she exhaled and began to speak. One of them, the fourth. You know. I will surpass all Hokages including you. And finally I will make everyone appreciate my strength. I will achieve respect and no matter what I will protect you and my friends, as the fourth did. Iruka stared at the girl. Just a child, he thought. This outburst was just a protest, a refusal to accept reality. Perhaps she will become a strong shinobi, but later, not now. Iruka, don't you need to go to the academy? Hiruzen asked a question. Eh? Yes, sure. The rest can also be free. And, Naruto, you know, I have no doubt that you will become a strong shinobi. But you shouldn't make others suffer along the way. Even if it's unbearably hard for you. Your pain should remain only yours," said the Hokage, looking away from her. Selfish, the elderly man thought to himself. Yes. After everything that had happened in the morning, Uzumaki sat on the swing she loved so much, which was located opposite the very entrance to the academy. Now many voices of adults and their children could be heard from there. Here it is, the award ceremony. From now on, they are genin and will have to carry out various assignments from the Hokage. "Do we miss you?" A voice was heard right next to the red-haired girl's ear, to which she shuddered. She didn't notice who appeared nearby. "Mizuki-sensei?" "Hello, Naruto. I heard what you did today. And I don't blame you in any way. It even turned out quite funny. Echem. But that's not why I came here. I just wanted to tell you not to be angry with Iruka-sensei for his rudeness. He's worried about you." "But how would you know?" she snorted. "We have been friends with him for a long time and I can tell you a lot of interesting things about him," said the shinobi, after which there was a minute of silence. "Oh. Yes, I'm not angry. It's okay, next time I'll pass this exam, Databayo." The Jinchuriki answered cheerfully, but still there was a drop of frustration and annoyance in her voice. "You know, I can help you," the ash-haired man said with an obvious grin on his face, to which Naruto glanced at him with suspicion. "Seriously? I'm not kidding. And how? How can you help?" The girl literally sprinkled questions. "Really, I shouldn't talk about it. If anyone finds out, then," said the sensei. No, you can count on me, no one will know," hastened to assure her interlocutor. "For this I will need your help. Do you have a dream?" Someone will say, "What a stupid question, everyone has it," but there will also be those who never got it. Or maybe she was there, but was forgotten with age? And if so, what kind of dream is this? And yet, once you have a dream, what lengths can you go to make it come true? Or what can your dream do and how can it change you? "It's amazing," the young man said barely audibly. "Simply amazing. This is already serious. Find Naruto urgently." An elderly man in a white robe was very shocked by the news. "Eat. Sarutobi, you understand, I can't close my eyes to this," said the one whose mouth depicted a predatory grin. "Danzo. I'm sure the situation will be resolved much better than you think." On the outskirts of the village there was an old temple that had been empty for a long time. The young ninja decided to stop when he noticed the girl. "Naruto?" He wanted to shout out to her, but he was stopped by the appearance of two familiar shinobi and he decided to remain unnoticed. "Naruto. The end of your mischief," the shinobi blurted out angrily. In front of him stood a breathless girl with a large scroll behind her back. "Oh, Iruka-sensei. You found me." "And there, Nined," said the red-haired girl, looking somewhere into the gloomy grove. At that same second, kunai flew from behind those standing with a quiet whistle. The young shinobi noticed them too late and only managed to cover the red-haired woman with himself. The teacher's muffled groan seemed to echo in Naruto's head. A wave of fire ran through the little Uzumaki's body. Amazing and sad. Pathetic, Iruka, just look at this naive child who was able to steal the village's secret scroll unnoticed. From the very beginning, no one cared about you and it will always be that way. Naruto, give me the scroll here and I will help you become strong so that everyone respects you. Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki. So it's you. Don't listen to him, Naruto, he's only using you for his own purposes, don't give him the scroll. Stop scaring her, Iruka. Do you really not want Naruto to get the scroll? You are too cruel to the one who did this with good intentions. What you? What are you talking about? He's lying, Naruto. That scroll that you are holding contains forbidden jutsu that will endanger the entire village. Lying? Now I'll tell you who's really lying here. All your life you have lived in deception according to the law of 11 years ago. Shut up. Not knowing what to do otherwise, Yumino, not paying attention to the aching wounds, grabbed the blue-eyed girl and covered her ears with his hands. Silence, just a few words like a bolt from the blue. Dash, you are the nine-tailed fox. Little legs gave way and unconsciously, not understanding what was happening, the girl began to crawl back, but a nearby tree did not allow her to go far. Uzumaki grabbed her head and a large amount of unbridled chakra appeared around her, which those nearby could not help but notice. This is why you are not accepted in the village. Even the teacher hates you for the death of his parents. I would help you become strong so that everyone would recognize and fear you. She sat lost, not noticing everything around her and even how the teacher took another blow and was now hanging over her leaning on his trembling hands. Only a drop of warm blood brought the Jinchuriki to his senses. Irika is sensei, why? I know what it is. I know how you feel, loneliness and emptiness. I'm sorry, you don't deserve this. She did not know what drops fell on her face, tears or blood. Teacher, she said helplessly, ceasing to control herself. It was childishly offensive, but the emptiness filling the heart was faster than the understanding and awareness of everything that was happening. Mizuki began to come closer, still continuing to say other nasty things about how vile everyone was. Don't touch him again. The red-haired girl interrupted. What? Don't touch me, Iruka-sensei. Uzumaki said louder. My chest was burning and my body was shaking, but nothing more. Everything fell into place. Otherwise what? What can a pathetic little fox do to me? You even touch him with your finger and you're done for. What a rant. You are definitely not a person, or even a fox that everyone is so afraid of, but just a blind kitten that can only meow loudly. The next second, Uzumaki rushed at Mizuki, but he lazily began to use shurikens and was immediately surprised at how dashingly the girl dodged while accelerating. Moving more and more confidently towards his former teacher, feeling no fear, only determination and anger, which helped him move faster and deftly avoid blows. Naruto? What are you doing? Yumino couldn't believe that the little girl didn't seem weak now, but looked like a well-trained ninja. The shinobi dodged the not entirely accurate blows. They became more and more numerous, not allowing him to move to the scroll that was near Irika. Feeling a push in the thigh area, he automatically grabbed with his hand the place where he no longer found his pouch with the remaining kunai in it. Realizing that this was all the Jinchuriki was trying to achieve, he laughed. Really all this time? Aha! But is a ninja dangerous only with a weapon in his hands? The girl stood calmly, she already had 2 kunai in her hands, she stood and looked at her enemy with wide eyes. What the? Mizuki squinted, peering into Naruto's blue eyes that shimmered into silver, but what red reflections, as if sparks appeared and then went out. The shinobi felt uneasy at the thought of what this could be. Deciding not to delay the matter, he put down the seal. Kage Bunshin, but jutsu. Creating a clone that went to the wounded Irika in order to pick up the secret scroll, he himself continued to look at Uzumaki and noticed how she began to smile, and then put the same seal as the ash-haired one. Kage Bunshin, no jutsu. Her clone appeared near the girl. Everyone who was there was at a loss, even Naruto herself couldn't believe what she had just done, but deciding not to stop at one clone, she tried again and again to create new ones. Kage Bunshin, no jutsu. Kage Bunshin no jutsu. Kage Bunshin, but jutsu. Having created 5 clones, she decided not to waste time any longer and headed towards her enemy when the second clone's opposite moved towards the teacher. Irika finally gained some strength and threw the scroll over his back and headed towards the clone created by Mizuki. Naruto's clone stopped watching the teacher, they had a completely different speed. When the enemy clone immediately disappeared, and the teacher was again exhausted, they ran up to him. "Naruto, you must take the scroll and run to the village. There are many shinobi looking for you. Tell them what happened." "I'll distract Mizuki with myself," but they were only silent when they suddenly disappeared. Turning around, Naruto raised her hand with a kunai, aiming for her forearm, but the shinobi caught it and threw it into the distance. The clones grabbed his hands from behind, and the real bearer of the fox again rushed at the ash-haired one, jumping up to strike him in the face, but even then Mizuki only leaned back after kicking the girl in the stomach. The blow was not weak and the clones disappeared. "It's annoying," the red-haired girl growled, getting up, but still holding her hand to the bruised place. She felt a familiar chakra approaching them. Deciding to try again, she straightened up, making a seal, and more reflections of red appeared in her eyes. "Kage Bunshin, no Jutsu." "What? How is that?" Mizuki was confused. "Is this really possible? Having learned the technique only a couple of minutes ago, you can already master it perfectly." Yumino couldn't believe what he saw. A couple of dozen Naruto clones stood in front of him. Gathering her strength, Uzumaki decided on the final attack. Alone against all her clones, he will definitely have a hard time. "Well, sir, since you don't come to me, then I'm coming to you." "Databao!" The blue-eyed girl shouted and rushed towards Mizuki, raising her hand, which contained a kunai. Mizuki became wary, as if feeling no pain and knowing no fear. The girl ran towards him like many of her clones, but only one made him tense up. The one who had a crazy look, all the same reflections of red, as if the flame inside her was visible through her eyes. Only a couple of seconds of confusion were enough and he was no longer able to dodge the blows of the girl in time, who did not spare the offender of his sensei. The young shinobi, who had been observing everything, now stood opposite the red-haired woman who was silently hanging over the moaning Mizuki. Then, as if without noticing him, she went to her teacher. "Sorry, I got a little carried away." He continued to look at the young Uzumaki, who was well-worn, but quite cheerful. At that moment, in front of him, she finally became a shinobi, as her new headband indicated. The protector was worn in places and had small scratches, but it was a gift from his teacher, who finally believed in her and recognized her. Probably this very moment will remain in their memory. But he will not forget this day, which gave rise to many thoughts. Feeling disqualified from being there, he picked up Mizuki and headed to the residence with all the reports and a report on what had recently happened. This worthless creation is dangerous. If not now, then definitely in the future. Pathetic Sarutobi will no longer be able to do anything. To survive the most difficult periods in life, we need to relearn how to move forward. Not standing still is our choice. Life is constantly moving forward and it is within our power to follow the path we have chosen without denying ourselves. A little girl and an elderly man were sitting in a small room. He sorted through the papers that filled his entire desk. "Old man, this photo. Now other shinobi can find out about me just by looking at it." "Not all. This is something in the form of a dossier on any shinobi that proves your identity. You will also need it when your internship begins. But not everyone has access to everything." He answered without any interest. "What about shinobi from other villages?" The red-haired girl did not let up. The man exhaled. There was a lot of work that he couldn't concentrate on anyway. Silence filled the room and only occasionally the creaking of a wooden chair was heard, on which the girl fidgeted, waiting for the Hokage to speak. Suddenly a rustling sound was heard behind the door. Uzumaki noticed that behind her there was a small figure of a child with a tiny hearth of chakra. There. Naruto wanted to notify the Hokage that there was someone behind the door, when it suddenly swung open and a boy burst into them, rushing towards the head of the village. "Old man. I challenge you to a fight. Now I will beat you and become the 5th Hokage." The kid ran towards the elderly man holding a shuriken in his hand. He was clearly serious, but those in the room did not even move from their seats. And now the boy's chosen goal was just a stone's throw away when his own long scarf, which was constantly dangling at his feet, turned out to be the reason for his fall. At the same second, another person appeared in the room. Naruto observed that he had a large amount of chakra, slightly more than Iruka-sensei. "I hope you didn't hurt yourself, venerable grandson." An excited voice interrupted the boy's groans. The shinobi looked around the room, noticing the Hokage, and then Uzumaki, who was surprised by everything that was happening there. The man quieted down, recognizing the girl as the obnoxious and blind bearer of the fox. Immediately the boy stood up and puffed towards Naruto. Having come almost close, he extended his hand, pointing his finger at her. "It was you who tripped me up. I fell because of you," he accused the red-haired girl angrily. "Yes, you yourself faltered. There is no point in blaming everyone." Naruto instantly flared up with rage, pushing the boy away from him. "Well, take your hands off your venerable grandson, the esteemed third Hokage," the shinobi immediately said. "Well, are you afraid that my grandfather is the third Hokage?" The girl was shocked. She had never known about the old man's family, much less his grandson. He continued to sit silently at the table, looking at everything that was happening. The boy continued to accuse and laugh at the inaction of the blue-eyed girl, when she still did not understand what was going on here, when Uzumaki immediately grabbed the restless one by the scarf tied around his small neck. "What's the matter? Do you want to hit me? Or was she afraid of my grandfather?" At these words, Uzumaki was completely out of her mind. "I don't care who your grandmother is." The red-haired boy hit the boy, who immediately fell to the floor. She was angry. Why didn't the old man talk about his family? Because he should have. She considered him her family and he knew it too. So why? With resentment visible on Uzumaki's face, she left the room. And after her, a noisy boy who was amazed by the hot-tempered and fearless red-haired girl. The shinobi did not immediately notice his absence, reading lectures every now and then, drawing only the attention of the Hokage. He just shook his head, wondering. And when did he become like this? "Stop following me." Uzumaki couldn't stand it. She could easily feel the presence of the little annoying one. "And you are really good. Eh? She was able to notice me when I disguised myself so cleverly. Now I am your student, and you are my teacher," the boy said confidently. "Are you kidding? I can't become your teacher." "Why? I need another teacher so that I can defeat my grandfather and become the next Hokage. I'm tired of this. Everyone sees me as the honorable grandson of the third Hokage," the boy said, filled with emotion, almost squealing. "Echem. By the way, what's your name?" "Konohamaru. This is the old name of the village. It's easy to remember, but no one calls me by name." Thinking about Konohamaru's story, Uzumaki silently continued on her way. "Hey, are you listening? Therefore, I definitely need to defeat my grandfather and become Hokage. Having become one, they finally recognize me as Konohamaru." The blue-eyed girl stopped abruptly, but the noisy boy crashed into her back and fell to the ground. "Hokage this, Hokage that. It's not that easy, Konohamaru." Naruto began slowly. "What? Do you even know what it takes to become one? What? First you need to defeat me, Naruto Uzumaki," she said with a dazzling smile. The boy silently stared at the girl. Who is she to say such a thing? Was spinning in my head. He watched as Uzumaki slowly leaned towards him and offered her hand to help him stand up. The girl's small hand was bruised, and the cauldrons on it were a little swollen. Grabbing the seemingly painful and fragile hand, he realized that it was only like that in appearance. She looked at him, in a simple way, smiling sincerely, closing her eyes. The sun was mercilessly hot. The streets were half empty. There was a light cool breeze filled with the loud chirping of cicadas. And yes, there is no shortcut to the title of Hokage. Be prepared for any difficulties. Naruto left what she said for last. Konohamaru silently watched as his new acquaintance, who was completely different from all those he had met before, left. "Hey Naruto! Naruto!" The boy shouted with all his might, to which the blue-eyed girl turned around already in the distance. "Remember, I will certainly fight with you." Uzumaki smiled again, but this smile was much wider than before. She waved and continued on her way to the academy again. It was still very early, but today all those who passed the exam will be gathered together and the distribution will begin. And tomorrow the internship will begin, interesting tasks, meeting strong opponents and exciting battles with them. What? Why is Naruto on the same team as Sasuke? Yes. Why exactly this loser with my Sasuke-kun? It must be me. No, Yumano, announcing the lists of the composition of the new teams, which had 3 students each, was now absurdly scratching the back of his head, trying to calm everyone down. A booth reigned in the office, directed by girls subjugated by the cold-blooded Uchiha. They all complained indignantly while near Naruto's desk. But what irritated them even more was that Sasuke himself was sitting calmly next to the red-haired girl with an impenetrable look, which now angered the Uzumaki herself. What came over him? Do whatever he wants, thought the blue-eyed girl. The screams grew into rude pushes and insults. The children completely forgot about the presence of their sensei. Tired? Naruto roared, jumping up sharply. Everything was quiet, but not for long. A quiet and angry hiss made the red-haired girl turn her attention to the girl standing next to her, who unexpectedly sharply pushed her. Not expecting this and unable to resist, Uzumaki began to fall on the Uchiha sitting next to her. Closing her eyes and cowering all over, expecting the impact of the fall, she suddenly stopped abruptly in the air. There was now silence in the office. The young Jinchuriki did not understand what happened. Feeling the warm breath on her cheek, she slowly opened her eyes and immediately her body began to rise, and then someone grabbed her hand, pulling her towards him. "How are you? Shikamaru? Is this a Nara clan technique?" "Yes, the shadow imitation technique." "Na are you?" Sakura spoke ominously, but was stopped. "That's it. Get to your seats quickly." Iruka was furious. "I repeat, Team number 7 Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto, and for the first time in several generations, a member of the famous Nara clan, Nara Shikamaru." The Uchiha sat as if in prostration. What just happened? Why are his hands shaking and his body so tense? What is this? Not restraint? Anger? Just now her face was so close to his own. He glanced at the noisy neighbors and now members of his team. "Shikamaru, you're cool. Catch me in the air. It's great that we're on the same team." Uzumaki rumbled, sitting down closer to the Uchiha to give her friend a place to sit. "Be quiet. But as always, you attract all sorts of troubles. It's for the best that you need supervision." Saying this, Shikamaru turned his attention to Sasuke, who was also looking at him. So the trio continued to sit, waiting for their mentor. The Uzumaki twisted and kicked, which caused discomfort to those on either side of the girl. With the departure of the last team, Shikamaru moved a little further, while Uchiha silently moved to a place closer to the exit. Enough time had passed since the classroom was empty, but the guys were still waiting for their new sensei. Even the restless Uzumaki was exhausted from waiting. Now I'll find him myself and bring him here." The girl headed towards the exit, but immediately stopped and turned her face to the window. "Yo, guys." An ashen-haired man appeared, dressed in standard shinobi clothing, consisting of a green chunin vest, a blue suit, sandals and gloves with shields. His mask covered his face and a bandage covered his left eye. Ninja-san? At the residence. Hokage-sama, Shikaku, explain to us why you did this? After all, for many years in a row the composition of the teams did not change and Nara was always with Akimichi and Yamanaka. I am already silent about all the benefits of this composition, but all this was also done to strengthen the unity between the three clans. The shinobi were shocked by what was happening. I think this still could not have been avoided. And I was forced to do just that after discussing it with Shikaku in advance. But what does all this mean? Precautionary measures. So, let's get acquainted first. Tell me who you are and what you love. Do you have a dream? My name is Kakashi Hatake, Jounin, your new mentor. Now you. Nara Shikamaru, Genin. I love shogi, lying around and doing nothing. The dream is to start a family and live a normal, quiet life. Uchiha Sasuke, Genin. There's nothing I like, but there's a lot I don't like. My goal is to kill one person. The red-haired girl felt strange around Sasuke. Well, and you, said the ash-haired one, drawing the Uzumaki's attention to himself. Uzumaki Naruto, Genin. I love a lot of things, but I don't like liars and traitors. She said with disdain, my dream is to become an outstanding Hokage that will surpass all shinobi. The blue-eyed girl literally shouted, pointing her finger at their mentor. The boys were surprised by her outburst, and Hatake only exhaled tiredly. This is just the beginning of their battle, which the young Jinchuriki announced. That's the end of the story.